Montsame is here at COP17, reporting on the fifth day of the conference, and I'm here joined by the UNCCD Deputy Executive Secretary, Andrea Meza Murillo, right?
Right.
Yes, okay. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be with you.
How are you enjoying the conference?
Very much. I mean, I must say that Mongolia is an amazing country. You know, not only the landscape, the culture, but also the contribution right now that we're seeing to the world in terms of leadership. In a world where we're seeing so much tensions and conflicts, a country that it is saying, I step up, I'm hosting a multilateral conference to discuss one of the most challenging issues that we're facing as humanity, is showing bold leadership and commitment. And we appreciate this very much. I think that probably from the history that you have as a very big empire that has been a country with the influence of so much nations and as well in a moment where all that nomadic spirit there, that I think is given a lot of impetus and hope. And I think that restoring land, restoring hope really reflects this. So the venue is amazing. This lovely venue that not only you're seeing the spirit, but the details. And you can see that Mongolians are very welcoming and we feel that. We know that this will be a very successful COP.
Speaking of hope, so with this conference, what kind of an outcome would you like to see from the UNCCD?
Very important. I think that we first need to demonstrate that multilateralism can deliver. And deliver means that we can achieve agreements, consensus to address global challenges, land degradation, drought, desertification, guaranteeing food and water to our communities, guaranteeing livelihoods. And these are global challenges. And as a global community, it's not about only coming with consensus on the negotiation side, which is very important, because first we come together, we say, oh, yes, this is a common global problem. No country alone can address these issues by themselves. We need collaboration. We need to cooperate and work together to change the trajectory of degradation. And then first is to achieve these outcomes on several important issues. And here I will say rangelands, because rangelands for many countries are a building block for their survival, and for Mongolia is one. It's a critical building block for food security, to get economic benefits for many communities around the world. But for many years, in many countries and in many contexts, they have seen this open area and they think that it has no value. You know, there is a phrase that there has been out there that we're trying to say, rangelands are no wasteland, because for many years there has not been the recognition, the importance that all the ecosystem services and important economic activities that are happening in rangelands. So first is that we can really make COP17 the turning point to protect and manage our rangelands, to make them investable. So this is a very important achievement on the negotiation side. But also then we're expecting to see very important outcomes as well on food system, food security. And in Riyadh, for the first time in our process, there was this COP decision related to restoring agricultural lands and soil health, understanding the importance of soil health. But here we need to build more on this COP decision, and we're expecting that there will be important progress on how can we make and work with the farmers, with the farmers communities and the herders to restore these agricultural lands. And then is drought. Look what drought is, how much is affecting all the economies around the world.
Yes, we can see it around the world.
Around the world, Europe, in places where you can never imagine. And this is why we say no country is immune to drought.
Yes, even though we're having rain in Mongolia at the moment.
Today, but there's always like this water stress going and intensifying, and science is telling us that droughts due to climate change and the effects of climate change we will have more droughts with more intensity and more frequency. So we really need, as decision makers, if you are a serious decision maker in a company, a CEO or a president in a country, you need to then get the right information, put in place the good plans, the good policies, and make the right investments to be better prepared for the next drought. Because without water, then we will be facing severe problems in all areas. So I think that if we achieve these 3 negotiated outcomes, but not only on the negotiation side, as I was saying, this is about implementation.
Yes, speaking of implementation, a lot of countries pledged that they would commit to the agenda matter, but a lot of the stakeholders, especially for pastorals, they want commitment. So how does the UNCC see as a sufficient commitment from a nation that would be sufficient enough to combat desertification, combat drought?
Very important question, and this is why we need to make this COP the COP of implementation within the UNCCD. And it's very interesting to see the bold leadership of the country. The Prime Minister came to give in his opening remarks, he made very good interventions on as well on how you are moving and making this green development a reality. We're talking about the kind of development that we want to have as societies. And it is one where we can operate within our planetary boundaries, when we can guarantee that we can have healthy land and healthy soil, that we can have water, that we can be reducing our emissions, that we can protect our ecosystems, our rangelands, our forests, but at the same time have economic prosperity. And it is possible, taking the right decisions and the right investments. And this is why this transition to mobilize and continue making investments in the right sectors, in the right moment, making...
What are those right sectors?
For example, and I think that coming back to the negotiation aspects, if we restored these agricultural lands that are already degraded, and in many cases, this means working with the farmers, giving them access to certain technologies, packages of technologies, and that in many cases are not so expensive. It's just that we need to prioritize and know that we can bring back these elements, this life to the soil. We can be producing more food, reducing the pressure to transform other ecosystems. So this is a priority. Let's restore these degraded agricultural lands. Let's really invest in soil health issues, for example. In rangeland management and conservation. Why? Because rangelands are so important for the development, for a good development model, especially for a country like Mongolia. So how can we continue working with the herders and with the pastoralists to have them access to these financial different schemes? And there is where a lot of the innovations can be brought. We have the private sector very much engaged, and in Mongolia we're seeing a very interesting dynamic where the private sector is saying we want to work to guarantee that the production of cashmere can be generated under sustainability issues, because we want to guarantee that we will be having Kashmir for many, many years.
Yes.
We don't want just to reduce the conditions to have this input for a lot of these productions that we're having. So this is the kind of things. And this means at the end, we're talking about mobilizing financial resources and technical resources into the right sectors, soil health, rangeland conservation, and to be proactive drought management, to understand that we need to be better prepared for the next droughts. And this means, in many cases, they're interconnected. It's investing in certain agriculture seeds that could be more resistant to drought. But we need to think in advance, not when we're in the drought. We need to know and then support the farmers to have access to this kind of seeds or technologies with irrigation, precision agriculture.
Is there an industry that might be outside of like ranger lands and pastoralists that might be a key to actually helping them have a better life, have a way to restore their land, maybe?
Again, is there a sector
yes, like a sector, like an industry, like I don't know, how would I say this, like a technological company that can actually support the pastoralists and rangelands that people have not really looked at and said, oh, this organization is doing this, but we did not see that their work was actually essential or like that would help out the rangeland.
I think that it's very interesting to see all the potential that technology companies in general, right, artificial intelligence can do, and to have better information, right, on how to do this. And I think that there's clearly a link with a lot of the digitalization, artificial intelligence, that technology sector in general can be a very important contributor to this transition. I think that as well the energy transition in general, you know, when you start discussing on how to do this deployment of renewable energies in the rangelands, for example, or in some areas, you need to do it in a way that you can be protecting and managing the rangelands in the right way. If you don't do it in a planned way, then it can have a harmful impact. But if you do it in the right way, it can actually generate more economic conditions and certain geospatial conditions that will allow to protect and manage the rangelands as well, and to generate benefits, of course, to the farmers and to the pastoralists. But we need to understand that everything is interconnected. So I've been hearing from the Mongolian side that Mongolia has a big potential, for example, in becoming a hub for renewable energy, which is a very interesting sector. And sometimes you will see, how is this connected to land? No, it's very much connected to land. It's very important to identify which is the best place to deploy all these new solar farms in a way that it will even contribute to the restoration of some already degraded land. And then some of the economic benefits that we're generating in the different sectors can also connect and continue generating benefits. Mining, you know, there is a conversation from the Mongolian side, because mining is a very important sector.
It is.
How can this be done in a way that we continue guaranteeing that the rangelands will be protected, that the water can be protected? And we're seeing a lot of appetite from the mining companies here in Mongolia of how can we do this in a way that we can contribute to the commitments, the investments, and the projects that the country is identifying. So it is possible to talk about this
Is
green
yes.
transition.
Is Rio part of that conversation? Is Rio involved in any of this?
It is, and this is why, in these COPs we have the negotiation side, but also the action agenda side. And it is under the action agenda where we will be having the Business for Land Forum, several companies from the fashion industry, from the agri-food sector, from the mining sector. There will be a mining forum even happening, because at the end, this transition requires that all sectors of the economy start adopting practices in their operations through their value chains, and at the same time mobilize more financial resources to the restoration, this big restoration campaign. Countries globally have committed to restore 1.1 billion hectares by 2030.
Yes.
And we need to move from commitments into action.
Yes, yes. Can you maybe again specify what would be the minimum for some of these countries to give for the fund to be exactly that you need to fight desertification?
You know that there's different roles.
Yeah.
As a government, you need to put in place the right policies,
Yes.
the right plans, the right incentives, right? You need the legal frameworks that are giving the right signals to the market that we want to go in this direction, that for us this is what it is allowed, and to start giving incentives and facilities to start adopting these new technologies that are helping you to restore the soil, the land, that are helping you to protect water resources. And this is very important, because right now, to be honest, what we are seeing globally is that our policy frameworks and our incentives and our subsidies that it's a decision of the governments are not giving the right signals, are actually giving a lot of incentives to destroy our ecosystems, to degrade our land, to pollute our water resources. This we need to change it and adopt it. This is the role of the government. And when this is adopted, you will see that the private sector easily can come in, because a lot of the innovation can happen in this collaboration between the government and the private sector. And it is in the capacity of the private sector to scale up a lot of these innovations. The solutions, the technological solutions are there. We're seeing so many good examples, but we need to scale up those, and we need to make them available to everyone.
So you would need the governments to push for these incentives.
For these incentives, for these right legal and policy frameworks, and to start programs at scale to restore this degraded land and soil, to protect the rangelands, and to be better prepared for the droughts.
So as we speak, the most people who are affected by drought and desertification are pastoralists and herders, and they are the main, I would say, the stakeholders of this convention, I would say. And sometimes their messaging falls on deaf ear. Maybe not for the UNCCD, but certainly for the policymakers. As you described in the beginning of our interview, that we described the rangelands as in the previous wastelands almost. And how can we and the people who rely on pastoralists give the message that this is an urgent issue, that you need to listen to these people, that you need to take action? And what are those messages, please?
Very, very critical issue in this moment. First, we need to guarantee that pastoralists, herders, but also farmers, local communities, indigenous peoples, youth, all the different stakeholders, the civil society that are living there, that are the protecting, that are the ones who are really facing, right, losing their livelihoods, have real voices in the multilateral processes. And for this, the creation of two caucuses, that one for indigenous peoples, one for local communities, where we're seeing a lot of the representatives of the herders and the pastoralists need to be there in these caucuses, that are complementing the caucuses for the youth and for women and girls on the gender one, because it's a way to guarantee their real participation, that their voices can be heard here in these multilateral processes, but then also that they can be part of the delegations, that they can negotiate as well, and it's an invitation to the different delegations to give the space to these different representatives,
Yes.
because they know their needs. They really can understand is what the countries are negotiating, how this will affect me. So it's very important to understand this.
I would say that I think desertification and drought affects women more than
Very much men and men.
Yes.
Clearly, this has been documented, right? These disproportionate effects of drought desertification on women and girls globally, and this is why to be hearing this, to be remembered, to be that they can be bring all the traditional knowledge, the solutions that they have. It's critical. In many cases, we just need to go back to our ancestors and their wisdom and hear them again, because a lot of the responses are to go back to certain practices that we have been losing.
Then should we then leave all the technologies that we have here?
No, I wouldn't say so. But sometimes it's to
All the innovation that we have?
no, the innovations is to combine the best of the two worlds, and not only give these unbalanced things, but it's like when
maybe like look back towards and see what we have lost, that they were valuable.
They were exactly a lot of valuable decisions and way in which the rangelands were managed. We can go back and revisit that. In many countries around the world, what the indigenous communities, how they were working with the soil. There are a lot of knowledge there that we just need to connect with these super high-tech technologies and then make them scalable and accessible to everyone. So it's how do we combine sometimes this traditional knowledge with the right technologies to actually make it accessible to everyone? Because for me, probably the story is about, in many cases, in the food that we're eating, right? I think we can make a reflection. In many of the different regions of the world, the traditional food that you were having, it's healthier,
It is.
more balanced,
Yes.
and then we're suddenly
good
we're
for your
just
teeth, yes.
we were suddenly changing into this new processed, highly processed food that it is not healthy. But it is how can we actually make our traditional food more attractive to the youth and to everyone, so we can, instead of being eating something that we know it's unhealthy, we start eating more a lot of this. So this is, it's not that we will just go back to the past, no, but we need to be taking the best knowledge and the best wisdom and define that we want actually healthy societies that depends on healthy land, healthy soils, that are resilient to all the different impacts of climate change, that can thrive.
Speaking of climate change, we all know that, again, that with the industrial growth, that was like the main factor in causing climate change. But again, you talked about balance. So who do you see as all from around the world, the champions who are combating climate change, who are trying to restore their land and trying to reduce or mitigate the CO2 emissions that we're emitting, I would say?
It's very important to see that the interconnectedness of these different crises is a poly-crisis, right? It's not only that yesterday was a crisis on climate change, the day after was on biodiversity loss, and tomorrow it will be land degradation and desertification. Actually, it's very much interconnected. For many countries, the major source of emissions is land use change, when you destroyed the forest. In many countries, it's not only the fossil fuel burning, but the fossil fuel burning, which we know it's the biggest challenge that we're facing. At the same time, is if we continue to see this raising of emissions, we're seeing a lot of impacts as well in the capacity of the ecosystems and the land and the soil to restore, to be operating. So this is interconnected clearly on the biophysical side. But then when you are talking to a company or to a farmer, right? For the farmer, it's just the lack of rain, the drought, is that then this degraded land, how can I then be guaranteeing that I will have continue producing food? And then with the impacts of climate change, it's becoming very difficult to be a farmer. And this is why then we need to start seeing this as interconnected, because we need to prioritize some solutions that generate benefits for the three challenges.
And who are these players for?
In the international level, I think that there are several interesting examples coming more, I will say, to countries that are seeing this in this integrated manner. For example, we're recently hearing from Panama that is saying, I want to generate one integrated plan to address the 3 Rio Convention targets, because I know that I want to accelerate this energy transition, but at the same time, I want to do this in a way that I'm restoring my degraded land and guaranteeing my forest. China is doing a very interesting models in expanding the energy transition and at the same time restoring degraded lands in thousands and thousands of hectares. You can go to a lot of different countries as well in Europe that are trying to understand how to mobilize in seeing this in an interconnected manner. So I think that the message here is more to understand that we need solutions and prioritize those solutions that will have multiple benefits. Because again, it's like our body. Everything is interconnected. And as well, on the way that we're managing our Mother Earth, everything is interconnected.
Yes, indeed. So speaking of, again, solutions, so this is my last question. So let's say that the financing is no obstacle, that we got
all the financial resources of the world.
Yes, that we made it. And so what should the countries, like, let's say for Mongolia, what do they need to do first to fight desertification? What would be the first step that we should do? What should be the first step we should prioritize in combating desertification?
Critical to restore that agricultural land that has been degraded. This is a very important, because this will reduce the pressure to be destroying other critical ecosystem like the forest. You have very big mass of forest that you need to manage and protect. Very important. This planning of how are you going to be doing your infrastructure. You can have important, because we need to have our cities, our roads, our different industries, but we need to plan them and know we can have this activity here. It is possible to have it. This will have certain impact, but we can reduce it in this way. So plan your activities. Having a good land use plan is very important. Prioritize restoring your agricultural land. And in the case of Mongolia, prioritize the management and conservation of your rangelands and your pastoralist communities.
Well, thank you, Deputy Executive Secretary. This was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.